Hodu Lashem Kitov Kiliolam Chasto. Where's that? Say it, of course, in Hallel repeatedly, but it is in fact the first pasuk of Tehillim Kuf Zayin 107. Next pasuk is Yomru Gulei Hashem Asher Golem Yad Tsar, and they should say the Gulei Hashem, the redeemed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that He redeemed them Yad Tsar. Oh, this was Tehillim explained. No, it's Mesilas Yesharim explained. I will say, why am I sharing this with you? You'll hear. There is a very widespread, even universal, minig amongst Hasidim to say before Kabbalah Shabbos, this Perek, Kuf Zayin. And that minig came from no less than the Heilige Baal Shem himself. It's a minig of the Baal Shem to say it, and Hasidim say Kuf Zayin before they start L'chadodi. Which leads us to the question, what in the world is the shaychut? What is the connection between Tehillim Kuf Zayin and L'chadodi? Maybe not a question you've had before, but you'll see that it's an important question. The most famous thing that comes out of this Perek, I believe, I think you'll agree with me when you see it, is from a Gemara in Brachos Nun Daled, and it has a very, very famous halacha there. Amar B'Yudam Rav, Arba Tzrichim Lahodas. There are four that have to be moda. Yardei Yam, those who go down to the sea, right? You go down to the seashore and take boats to the dangerous area of the sea. You know, especially back then, we have the Titanic in our days. We know, especially back then, how dangerous sea travel was. Holchim Midbaros, those who go to the Midbar, for sure. Mishay Cholim Nisrapis, someone had a good sickness, pre-penicillin, and got well. Today also we have many Cholim. Mishay Chavish Beis Asurim. So these people, in these four difficult spots, when they're redeemed, they have to be moda. And in fact, the one goes through and says how these are mentioned in these different psukim. I'm not going to go through all of them, it's not relevant to us, but Tob, the pasuk Dalet, here in Kuf Zayin says, Tob b'midbar b'shimon derech, ir moshav lo motzu, v'yitzaku el Hashem, yodu Hashem chastam, misha yechola, ivilim derech pisham, avonosem yitanu, kol ochel titoy of nafsham, a pasuk that we say before. By the way, some of these psukim are mentioned in Kaparas. So if you want to look, you can see that. Chosh Beis Asurim, Yoshev Choshev Etzalmavas, that's how we start Kaparas. Yoshvei Choshev Etzalmavas, etc. V'yomi Yitzaku El Hashem B'tzar Lahem, V'omer Yotziyim Yechoshev Etzalmavas, V'omer Yodu L'Hashem Chasto. And the famous song comes out from here also, Yodu L'Hashem Chasto, Niflos L'Vnei Adam. That's the kind of the general theme of this Perek, that there are those, and as I said, there are many Inyanim in any Perek in Tehillim, so I always find it difficult to say, like, this is it. But here you certainly see a very, very central idea, the four that have to be Moda, and we have Psukim of Hoda, and Psukim that talk about the difficult times they went through. In Gulei Hashem, the Pasuk said, Hol Hashem Kitovi Hol Chasto, Yomru Gulei Hashem Asher Golem Yad Tsar. Okay, so now we have some insight into Kuf Zayin. But again, this is not Tehillim explained. Maybe we'll get there. Bezrat Hashem, who knows? But it's not Tehillim explained. So why am I talking about this? And what does that have to do with Shabbos? Now we get to, friends, where this is relevant to us and why we're talking about this. We've spoken a great deal about the battleground of the Taiva against the Or, against the Tov Amiti, Olam Hazeh, is a Milchama, Panu V'achor. And then we said, but Im Tamik Od Ben Yitireh, you can see a deeper level of reality where the Olam is never L'Shima Shada, but still we're in this battle of, well, if we're in a Shikol Gadol, Kadosh Baruch Hu takes Al Kol Yidlanim. And here's the point, listen carefully. On a certain level, we are, and if you don't feel we are, certainly feel our Neshama, which is the best part of us, is in this world sick, in this world in a midbar, in a desert, in this world in the middle of the sea, in this world shackled and not being able to be itself. All those that have to be moda is in the neshama to a certain extent. It's a tough life for the neshama. It's in jail, sick in a seaboat. Shama doesn't get anything. We'll see later as we continue in Mesilas Yesharim. Shama doesn't appreciate the activity of this world. In fact, it's strangled by them. We can only think about what it's like for a neshama when God forbid we do an avera. Our bodies get a geschmack out of saying lashon hara. Our bodies we can imagine ourselves, God forbid, eating treif and enjoying it at some level. Other things we enjoy, but to the neshama, it's so the opposite. And not only, friends, is the isser so negative and toxic to the neshama, but dvarim shel heter, which goes before, also doesn't speak to these shtuyot, this no-go, all this gray matter that you're getting some pleasure with, you're involved in. What's he eating about? Like, what is it? But then one day comes, and the neshama is in a better place. And the good news is, friends, that one day isn't just one day a year, or one day a lifetime, one day a decade, one day a century. It's one day a week. It's called Shabbos Kodesh. And think about it. Every Shabbos, the neshama is unshackled. Every Shabbos, neshama is out of the midbar. Every neshama, the neshama is well again. There's a refuah for it. And suddenly, whatever the spiritual realm of Shabbos is, which is so enormous and so dynamic and so amazing, the Liyas and Neshama, the Liyas Olamas, whatever, it's not important how it happens or what the dynamics of it is happening, but something happens on Shabbos. And it's a real thing, and it's reflected in the world and the taste of the world. And suddenly it all makes sense, and only things fit together. And suddenly it's a world which is friendly to the Neshama, which is not against the Neshama. Isn't that beautiful? This word I heard from my dear brother-in-law, Rav Elio Sosevsky. And that's the pshat in the Hasidic minhag. He didn't connect it to Mesilas Yesharim, I'm connected to Mesilas Yesharim. But that's the pshat in the Hasidic minhag to Rikuf Zayin. Because all those that we speak about, this whole situation, Hod Hashem Kito Kilam Chasto, V'yomru Gu'ulei Hashem, those redeemed of Hashem. What do we say in Lechadodi? Karva el nafshi ge'ala. We're redeemed on Shabbos Kodesh. And then suddenly, it's mitzvah, the oneg is a mitzvah. And Shena b'Shabbos Tanug, something, the whole week it's miyat Shena. Don't sleep too much. On Shabbos, Shena b'Shabbos Tanug, go to sleep. Big Talmid Chachamim, take a rest. On Shabbos Kodesh, Big Talmid Chachamim, Tzadikim, eat. I'm reminded the Heilige Ribnitzer said he hardly ate during the week. On Shabbos, he ate. They said he ate and ate and ate and ate. Not only that, he could eat extremely hot food and it didn't bother him. People saw him. There were many Eidim in these things. He could eat extremely hot food and it didn't bother him. Don't try this at home. We're not on the Madrega of the Ribnitzer. Believe me, that is not an insult to anybody. Just read about him. But it's a different reality, different world. Now, not all of us feel that different reality. But think about it. Everybody gets dressed up in our finest suits, on our most beautiful dresses. The chashiv china is out, the silver is out. Why? Because the Jewish people knows. It's not just being Mekayim halacha. Don't look at things a little deeper, friends. Don't just think we're just being Mekayim a din. It's a din. Why is it a din? It's a din that's reflecting reality. And the Issa Malacha is reflecting reality. The fact you get skila, God forbid, if you're over on this Kedusha, is because there's something there. This is a different day. It's an island in time. Now, could we turn off our phones? And now you can also turn off a phone. We're turning off our phones because we're living in a different reality, in a different dimension. Those who are with us for Shemona Esrei Explain, we spoke about Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh. How Rosh Chodesh becomes a Yom Tov on Shabbos. It goes back to the place of before Tikkun, before sin. And Rosh Chodesh itself is supposed to be Yom Tov. It's just the Chet Egel ruined it. But then suddenly Shabbos comes and Rosh Chodesh it shines again. And therefore we have a special Shemona Esrei on Shabbos Rosh Chodesh, the only time of year we do that, if you remember. And we say something which is kind of like the Yom Tov Dika Nusach. And many other Tiyuk we had. That Shtickle Tar happened to be for my brother also. So that's it. So I thought this was so relevant. It's such a beautiful way to teach the lesson. Why am I mentioning this now in Shemona Esrei Explained? Well, it's going to be a long time when we get to Tilma Explained. No, that's not why. The reason I'm mentioning it now is because I think it's so important. The Mesilas Yesharim isn't mentioning it here, but the term Aniyim Makam Echad, Ashir Makam Acher, ideas are poor here. The way the Mesilas Yesharim is setting up, it's just the battle, and it's only a Shikul Gadol, and it's all about you. No, right? But for sure we see from many other sources, and I'm sure many have heard ideas which reflect the ideas I'm saying, which explain Shabbos, that Shabbos is something in altogether different reality. Now that doesn't mean, and I've given the example very often, a person can over-engage in the physical world. You can sleep too much, right? And you can eat too much on Shabbos, and you can gain weight on Shabbos, and etc. But that's true, but that's misusing something which is basically in a different, works with different rules. And we should never lose the sense of Shabbos, of how special it is and how unique it is, and how our neshamas are comfortable on Shabbos, and we're comfortable on Shabbos, right? Think so much. Same person, you have candies during the week, you feel guilty about it. On Shabbos, it's a mitzvah. Chavetz Chaim says if you see something you want to eat on Shabbos, you're supposed to eat it. A big Talmid Chacham said to me once, doesn't mean you have to have a lot of it. Okay, yesh ladun, but you want a piece of licorice during the week, don't eat it. On Shabbos, eat it. Well, what's that? It's a mitzvah something. Sheina, miyat sheina. Learn extra. Stand up. The great Rosh Yeshivah of Aaron Feinstein of Chavon Yeshiva used to tell the boys not to do NOT, do mishmarim, to stay up the whole night. In yeshivas, many boys stay up on Thursday night. God bless them. Our yeshiva bachrim. On Shabbos, not. You shouldn't be mitzayir yourself on Shabbos. Again, each person can ask his rub. I'm not here to say halacha. I'm just sharing the concept. Gulei Hashem. Hod Hashem ki tov yom chasto. Yom Gulei Hashem asher galam es yatzar. So this gives such a harchav and such a shleimus to what we've been learning in Mesilas Yesharim. For sure there's a battle. And we can't say there's no battle on Shabbos either. Can't say we're divorced of the battle on Shabbos. But definitely the whole tokif of the battle and the whole chumrah of the battle and the extent of the battle and how much the neshama is embittered and embattled and how much the neshama is yardei yam holchimid baros a chola is sitting in jail. In a certain way, we're in jail during the week. By the way, I've seen even that tefillah is different on Shabbos. I've seen this in the writings of the Balatanya. Tefillah during the week is called at the time of Milchama, but not on Shabbos. So I saw that before. I think it's based on Zohars. So you see again this idea, and that's how we have to embrace Shabbos. It's time to take it Shabbos. Baruch Hashem, so many people are into Shabbos. My Rosh Yeshivah of Shapell said, the one Mila, the Hasidic, just think what he said. I don't know the reality so well, but he's, in general, the Lithuanian yeshivas are perceived more as the standard bearers of high level learning. But he said the Mila Hasidic yeshivas have is that the Shabbos is Shabbos to them, and it's so important for us to embrace Shabbos in its whole way. It's difficult to understand what it's about sometimes, but to embrace it, to make it a big day, not just a day off, is a good expression. I think maybe Rabbi Tzadina Weinberg, the wife of Rabbi Noach Weinberg, founder of Eshet Torah and the biggest builder of the Kira movement. She should say Shabbos is a day on, not a day off. Right? It's time to be awake. It's time to sleep also. It's time to be nena. But whoa, every week we get this unbelievable matana. Every week our neshama comes through. V'yomru gulei Hashem asher galam miyatzar. So Bezrat Hashem, we should learn together with all the other ideas of Mesilas Yesharim to embrace Shabbos and to remember that the week is a milchama, definitely, but on Shabbos Baruch Hashem is v'yomer gulei Hashem asher galam yatzar karvel nafshi ga'ala. Bezrat Hashem will aspire and attain the levels to understand, appreciate, and embrace Shabbos Kodesh.